For years, the truth stayed hidden. The victims forgotten. The cases left cold, until science revealed what time could not. This is Decades in the Dark, where cold cases are brought back to light. The Colonial Parkway winds through Virginia's Tidewater region, a quiet, scenic drive stretching between Yorktown, Jamestown, and Williamsburg. Couples came here to escape the world, a lover's lane hidden by the trees, the sound of the James River lapping against the banks. But beginning in 1986, the Parkway became something else, a hunting ground. And over the next 3 years, 8 young people would vanish or die in what became one of the eeriest unsolved crime sprees in American history. On October 12, 1986, 27-year-old Kathy Thomas and 21-year-old Rebecca Dowski drove out to the Parkway. Kathy, a U.S. Naval Academy graduate, was sharp and disciplined. Becky, a college student at William and Mary, was bright and full of life. The two women were in a relationship, deeply connected and comfortable being themselves together. When their families didn't hear from them, a search began. 2 days later, their Honda Civic was found at the bottom of an embankment, its nose in the York River. The scene was disturbing. The car smelled strongly of diesel fuel, as if someone had tried to set it ablaze. Investigators believed it had been deliberately pushed down the embankment to hide it. Inside were the bodies of Kathy and Becky. Both women had been strangled with rope, and their throats cut so violently that at first police thought it was ritualistic. Their wallets and jewelry were untouched. This wasn't robbery. Whoever killed them came only for blood. Less than a year later, on September 20th, 1987, 20-year-old David Knobling and 14-year-old Robin Edwards drove out near the Parkway. David was a young man trying to build his life. Robin was still a teenager, restless and adventurous. They weren't a couple in the traditional sense, more of a casual connection, testing the waters of a relationship. The next morning, the truck was found abandoned on the James River Bridge. The doors were ajar, keys still in the ignition, the radio playing into the silence. 2 days later, their bodies were discovered on the shoreline, partially clothed, both shot at close range. David in the back, Robin in the head. Their shoes were missing, a haunting signature detail that was never explained. Then, in April 1988, the nightmare struck again. Richard Keith Call, 20, and Cassandra Sandy Haley, 18, went out on a first date. They were friends from college, and that night was the start of something new. Dinner, a movie, and a drive down the Parkway. When neither came home, their parents reported them missing. Richard's car was found neatly parked on the Parkway shoulder. Inside were Sandy's purse, her glasses, and Richard's wallet. Nothing was taken. There was no blood, no broken glass, no struggle. FBI investigators later suggested the couple may have been ordered out of the car at gunpoint. But whatever happened next left no trace. Despite extensive searches with helicopters, divers, and dogs, Richard and Sandy were never found. The final known murders came on September 5, 1989. 19-year-old Anna Maria Phelps and 21-year-old Daniel Lauer set out for Virginia Beach. They never made it. Daniel was driving to move in with his brother. Anna Maria, the younger sister of Daniel's girlfriend, had come along for the ride. Daniel's car was found abandoned along an I-64 exit ramp, parked facing the wrong direction, almost staged. 6 weeks later, hunters stumbled on their remains deep in the woods, but what they found shocked investigators. In just over a month, the bodies were already skeletal. Whether from heat, humidity, scavengers, or something more deliberate, decomposition was so advanced that little evidence could be recovered. What little could be examined suggested they had been stabbed. 4 couples, 8 lives. Lovers, friends, connected in different ways. And one chilling pattern. Each of them had parked or pulled off in isolated areas. Some directly on the Colonial Parkway, others just off its corridor on nearby bridges or highway exits. All were places meant for privacy. Places that turned into a predator's trap. The eerie similarities sent a chill through investigators. All of the victims were young couples. None were robbed. Cars were left neat and unlocked, belongings inside. There was rarely evidence of a struggle. And the killings came year after year, 1986, 1987, 1988, 1989, as if the murderer were following a ritual. The FBI called them the Colonial Parkway Murders. Were they the work of a single killer or multiple predators who used the Parkway as cover? Some details suggested one offender. Cars unlocked, valuables untouched, victims stepping out as if they trusted the person who approached. That led to one unsettling idea. What if the killer wasn't a man at all? A woman, or a woman working alongside a man, could have seemed harmless, even helpful. Someone the couples wouldn't fear until it was too late. But most profiles still pointed toward a man, possibly tied to law enforcement. The victims appear to have complied, as if ordered out by someone with authority. Over the years, investigators chased dozens of leads. One theory pointed directly at law enforcement. The way the cars were parked, the way the couples left without resistance, it all hinted at someone flashing a badge or pretending to. If the killer was a police officer, or someone impersonating one, it would explain why the victims followed orders without question. Another strong person of interest was a former security guard. He worked near the Parkway, had easy access to its secluded spots, and carried himself with the authority of a uniform. Investigators knew he had a violent past. His behavior raised eyebrows, and he was interviewed multiple times. But no forensic evidence tied him to the murders. He remained a shadow on the edge of the case, suspicious, but never arrested. Other local men with violent histories were also examined. Some had prior records for sexual assault and aggression, and a few lived close enough to the Parkway to raise suspicion. Each was questioned, none charged. The idea of a female accomplice was never fully dismissed. Some suggested a woman could have been the bait, luring couples out of their cars before a male partner attacked, but no woman was ever officially identified. And then there were the drifter theories. The late 1980s saw multiple serial offenders moving along the East Coast. Predators who killed in one town, then disappeared into the next. Investigators could never rule out that the Parkway murders were the work of one of these transients. A killer who struck and then vanished before patterns could be connected. Each lead collapsed into the same outcome, dead ends, and grieving families still waiting for answers. But recent developments may have pushed the case closer to resolution. In 2024, DNA linked a local fisherman, Alan Wade Wilmer Sr., to the murders of David Knobling and Robin Edwards. His genetic profile also tied him to the murder of Teresa Lynn Spa Howell, a young woman killed in Hampton in 1989. A case that was never considered part of the Parkway murders, but shared eerie similarities. Wilmer had once been questioned about the disappearance of Richard Call and Cassandra Haley. His distinctive pickup truck had even been spotted near where they vanished, memorable enough that witnesses reported it to investigators. The FBI searched his property and questioned him, but at the time, forensic science couldn't make the connection. Now, decades later, the truth may finally be catching up to him. But there will never be an arrest. Alan Wilmer died in 2017, years before DNA pointed to him. For the families, the discovery was both relief and heartbreak. Answers, finally, but no trial, no justice in a courtroom. Could Alan Wilmer have been responsible for all of the Colonial Parkway murders? Or only some of them? If not, did the Parkway hide more than one killer, operating at the same time? For decades, the Colonial Parkway murders haunted Virginia. Case files stacked up, parents begged for justice. Investigators worked leads until they went cold. But today, advances in forensic genealogy have reopened the door. Families hold vigils and memorials, refusing to let the story fade into the trees. The Colonial Parkway is still open. Tourists drive its curves for the view, unaware of the shadows hiding between the trees. 8 lives cut short, 4 crime scenes linked by silence, and a killer, or killers, who may still be out there. This is Decades in the Dark, where science brings the past to light. Subscribe for more stories where justice never expires.